This is a special city council meeting for Tuesday, July 2nd, 2019. I see we have a packed house tonight. Are y'all ready to go? They are ready to go. Suckers in mouth and everything. Will y'all please stand to include Walt for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Are there any public comments? None. The floor is all yours if you want to say something. Nothing? Okay. No, you'll pass the thing. No public comments. We have item number two is new business. Consideration of a proposal for Rundy Park restroom upgrades. City Manager Charlie Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As council is aware, funds were appropriated by council at an earlier council meeting to do several park improvement upgrades, one of which was upgrading the restrooms at Rundy Park and expanding the deck area at the park. We advertised for requests for proposals as we do for projects like this on our city website. We had one proposal come in. There has been some discussion as to whether it should be rebid or not. So it is before you tonight for your consideration, either to move forward and accept this bid or to give staff direction on which way you want to go. And the proposal did come in under the projected amount that we have budgeted for this project.
Are there any questions?
From a legal perspective?
Any particular aspect you're interested in, or just in general?
The one bid versus two
Yep.
as our
Yep.
current ordinances are written.
That's right. Your current ordinance says that you must get at least two bids. Our ordinance, unlike the state of South Carolina's procurement ordinance, does not speak to what most procurement ordinances call sole source. The state ordinance speaks to it. The model ordinance put forth by Mass and the budget group in South Carolina speaks to sole source. When is there a sole source? Well, that's typically left up to the purchasing agent. In this case, that would be Charlie. And when there is, in other ordinances, ours just doesn't address it. I think it's a shortcoming of it. In other cases, other ordinances, including the state's, says that when there's a sole source, the purchasing agent makes a determination and just documents it and moves forward and awards it if they determine it's a sole source. Well, we don't have that in ours, so I look to other places to see what they do when you get one source. And my belief is that if a purchasing agent, in this case it would be Charlie, is able to make a determination that's the sole source, then surely council can determine that this is our source, if you want to make that determination. And just, I would add, from a legal perspective, what the intent of these procurement ordinances are two. One, to make sure there's no self-dealing, and two, to give potential bidders a fair shot. And here, the five of you who are disinterested parties have a chance to make the determination to go forward with this bidder. And I think all of you are uninterested in the sense that you don't have any financial interest in it. So I think for two reasons. One, the underlying intent is met here, those two underlying intents. And secondly, you bid it, and the market has determined there's, at least for our practical purpose here today, there's a sole source. Having said all that, you don't have to award it, but you could, in my belief.
Is there a time limit involved? Do we have to have it out for bid for a certain amount of time?
Our current procurement ordinance does not address that as far as a certain amount of time. We did have it out for bid for, I believe, just over 30 days that we had it advertised, which is pretty standard, as far as a minimum. I have recently read a lot of procurement ordinances that actually have minimums of 14 days. But 30 days is usually general. A lot of times you'll go 60, 90 days, depending on what the project is and that type thing. But we had it advertised for just over 30 days.
So Bob, a reasonable person would say 30 days is long enough?
From what I've read, in general, procurement ordinances, 30 days is the outer limit.
It is the outer limits.
Outer limit. And I think some of it depends on the size of the project too. I mean, the states has some longer requirements, but they're multi-million-dollar contracts.
So in this case, we set a reasonable bid, we thought was 60,000. Is that what we put in? So we thought was
70 something.
That's correct. It was approximately $60,000 total is what we had projected. Budgeted for, and it came in under that, yes, sir.
And so Bob, for a reasonable bid of 60,000, would we have thought 30 days would have been a reasonable amount of time?
Yes, and what is your current practice, Charlie, for a number of days?
For larger projects, police station, we did, it was either 60 or 90 days, $4 million project. Smaller projects, we've done them as quick of a turnaround as 15 days, but generally 30 days is the general practice. We've got C funds out for bid right now for the upcoming C fund projects for 30 days.
Now, do we notify people when we put this out for bid? Do we call people and say we've just put something on our website, or we just let them find out for their own?
9 times out of 10, it's just on the website. With C funds, there is a requirement from SCDOT that we have to advertise on SCIBO, which is South Carolina Business Opportunities. So we put it there, put it on our website. We get inquiries from construction journals, construction magazines every time we post it. We get bids from posting there. They've got folks. A lot of these companies do have folks in their office that monitor local city government websites for procurement purposes.
So they look at it every day. That's just something they come in the office and they just punch it up every morning.
Yeah, you get notified. Like there's certain
there's
procurement softwares.
Yeah.
Like with us, anything that comes up with document shredding or destruction, we get an automated email through
I see.
different vendors that we use to monitor those types of government websites, where it's reported to us when it comes up.
I'm just speaking for me, but if it's a project that we put out there and there's only one person bidding on it, then I think we need to be aggressive and reach out and solicit bids for full transparency and to make sure that we do get a competitive bid. If there's only one person bidding, then there's got to be somebody else out there, preferably a resident, but there's got to be somebody out there that's willing to bid on the project. And I think we need to be aggressive and solicit that bid and not just put it out there and wait for somebody. I don't think we're good stewards of our funds if we're letting one person bid on a project.
And I'll just add just a point of clarification on the number of days. So city manager said over 30 days. It appears that the RFP date on the front of the RFP that was posted on the website states June 5th, and that the bid responses were due by 2 p.m. on June 24th. So it appears, according to the RFP that was on the website, that June 5th through June 24th. Would you say that's correct?
I didn't do the RFP. Our Parks and Recreation Director did, so
Sure.
I was using round figures. You've got it there in front of you, so I would assume that you are correct.
So that's what, 3 weeks?
I think it's about 2.5. And another point of clarification to the city manager. So on this action item, the action actually lists an amount not to exceed $56,900. But when I'm looking at the bid, help me understand, I'm calculating these numbers up for the 3 separate components that the bid came in at. One for $38,000, the second for 18,900, and the third for 7,550. And when I calculate that up, and so I'm not sure what I'm missing, but I get.
We rejected the third on the stone facing because it was going to put it over budget, and that was something that was not part of what council had asked us to do. It was something that we put out as part of the bid, but as included in the RFP, it says that we reserve the right to reject or refuse any or all parts of any of the bids. If it had come in to where it was still under that budget, that was one additional item we could have done as far as dressing that area up, because it put it over budget. That $7,700
So
is
the,
not the part we would be moving forward with, because that was not a part of what council had wanted to do, at least in the direction that I got, as far as what council wanted at Rundy Park with the restrooms.
okay, so just so I understand correctly, the only part of the bids that we're doing, that we received in our packet are the portion for 38,000 and the portion for 18,900.
Correct.
And so the black, the bottom of the base of the building that's like painted black will remain in appearance like that?
At least for the time being, unless, as we complete the rest of the projects that council had identified and appropriated, I believe it was $78,500 for. If we're able to bring those in under budget, and we do have the funds in order, we find that we do have the available funds to be able to do it, then I think that would be a good, final touch. The direction I got was make it look like the other city facilities. We would use that stone base to cover up that concrete block, but as it put it over budget, we were not going to entertain that portion at this time until funds were available to be able to do so.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. What is like the standard practice for other cities, maybe even in the MASC, guidelines for their policy for procurement to solicit bids? Is it typical to just put it on the website? Do other municipalities do something different? What's kind of the standard practice and maybe even some best practices that you've seen?
It varies. A lot of times it depends on the amount. I've seen some for as little as 10 days, and for larger projects like the police station and fire station, I've seen 60 days. So between those two, depending on the size.
So do you just, is it just typically on a website though, like we do, or is there some other standard?
That again depends on the size of it. There's a state website that we can put it on, and then there's the city website. Cities used to use the newspaper all the time, but that's used less and less now. If it's a large project, sometimes it still is, but now given the expense of putting it in the newspaper and the limited circulation, they've gone to online. You'll see all of this in our new ordinance that Charlie and I are working on now. It'll spell it all out.
Okay, so do we have what the new standard's gonna be? Do you have any idea as to what that's gonna look like for the,
As it exists today in its
Yeah.
draft format, would still be following the same practice of putting it on our website. Talking to other city managers, that's what they do. They put it on their website. There are certain projects, depending on where the funding is coming from, like the state or federal, where they still have the requirement of, gotta advertise it in the paper, but they don't tell you what you have to advertise. Yeah, it could be as little as, we're doing a project X, see website for details type thing. But talking with other cities, they put it on their website. Other cities, larger cities that are doing lots of projects continually all the time, much more than what we do preferred vendor lists. They'll do pre-qualifications, every so often. They'll have a list of vendors that they have already pre-qualified, and every time they've got bids and projects, they will send it to them in addition to putting it on the website.
okay. I think we would all agree that our procurement policy definitely needs some work, so I'm looking forward to getting that under control in the next month or so. So I'm looking forward to the July meeting when we can take a look at that in more detail. Yeah.
One thing I'm going to add just as a follow-up to your question is, one thing I do not see in the state of South Carolina's procurement ordinance or others that I looked at is the requirement that you have to get 2 more bids. And why is that not in there? Well, maybe because they don't want to be sitting here tonight wondering what happens when you get 1 bid. I don't know how it got in ours. It's an old ordinance. It's been around the city a long time, but I don't see that in other well-drafted ordinances.
Well, I'm in conversations with this general contractor that's commercially licensed. It seems like his focus group, his honey hole, is under $100,000 municipality, commercial GC license required because he has much less overhead than a lot of his competitors. And so just from conversations with him over the years, he wins a lot of these in different municipalities in the area just because he's able to come in 30–40% cheaper than the guy with the building and the cranes and everything that does that other commercial type work. And so it's to get a second bid, to push it out, because he's done so well in those types of markets, a lot of commercial contractors won't waste the time because they know they can't come anywhere near where this contractor can.
So I'm very excited about this project. I think it's a great project. I think it's, Rundy Park adds a lot of value to our community. And I think the improvements to this facility are going to be very valuable for years to come for our residents. However, I want to make sure the city does its due diligence for the best use of TAK resources. And for this instance, the city received 1 bid. From what I understand, that sole bidder also helped get or establish an idea of how much work of this nature would cost the city, of which the city manager, I believe, used to help us determine what kind of budget we would set. Put another way, we received the project estimate from the same company we received the sole bid response from. It does not appear that we've solicited additional contractors to try to get some diversity in competition in this bid. And then our policy specifically states that a minimum of 2 bids must be received for any project or expense greater than $25,000. My decision is nothing against the contractor. I know that he has done a lot of projects in the past for the city of Tega, including this facility here. But I just want to make sure we've done our due diligence so that no one can question our selection and that we truly have a competitive bid for this project. I want to get this project done, but I don't see an emergency situation that would justify approving the bid contrary to our own policy that governs our city. I do think having a minimum of 2 bids is a good policy, and I have seen this in other municipalities around the country. I think that type of policy is put in place to protect the city and protect the council and to make sure that you aren't just getting 1 bid because the minimum effort was made. So I recommend to this council that we hold true to our own rules and regulations, and for this instance, we rebid this project.
So in this case, we had this bid out for 30 days, correct?
19.
So how long do we have it out?
19.
19 days. And is there anything that says if by doing it the other 11 days you would have got another bid?
There doesn't seem to be any indication of that, no, sir.
We'll never know
What do y'all think?
unless we rebid.
We're doing it for another 11 days?
I think, Alicia, I think you make a strong case. I do. I think you've done your homework. I think that you laid it out very eloquently. And I think you're right, to an extent that we do need to make sure that we're following our policies. Because I'm just gonna be honest, our procurement policy is sort of in disarray right now, and we need to tighten up some bolts there, and which we will be doing. I feel like there is some gray area here. And with that, yes, is it emergency? You're right, it's not an emergency to do Rundy today or 6 months from now. But I feel like the people in this community have waited a very long time to see things happen that we have been pushed off for years. And I want to move the project forward.
Gus, what do you feel?
I don't think the 11 days would have made a difference. My concern is what I mentioned earlier. I feel like if the policy is 2 bids, and we're trying to be transparent and good stewards of the taxpayers' money and our tax money, then I think we should be aggressive and find somebody. And Ryan, I totally agree with what you said too. I realize that somebody who is a GC that's willing to bid these projects at that level. I mean, it's easy to get people to bid on a police station. It's a $4 million project. But to get somebody to bid on the smaller projects, and I mean, $60,000 is not small, but it's small in the grand scheme of things. I think it's probably difficult to find people to do that, and especially in the economy that we're in right now with people building. But I still wish we had been a little more aggressive and found someone else to bid the project, even if they came in at 100.
Anything else?
I mean, to that point, we know what we have. I don't know if putting it out for another 30 days changes anything. Just based on the value of the project and the current economy, I think we'd just be delaying the inevitable. I guess my final question is the same as my first. If we do decide to move forward, are there any legal ramifications for the city for doing so?
I can't make any guarantees, Brian. I can't guarantee anything. I gave you my opinion.
Okay.
That's the best I can do, based on the ordinance you have in front of you. But just to carry that one step forward, what if, I mean, if you stick to that, what if you never got but one bid, so you just couldn't do the project? Surely council can make determinations when the underlying intents are met, which is no self-dealing and people were given a chance to bid. So that's it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That we go with this bid for right now, but from now on, we do the minimum of 30 days. So we can go ahead and move with this project. Would that be acceptable? Wouldn't be acceptable? Would that
Not
be
for me.
acceptable for you?
Yeah, I'm easy.
Okay, would that be acceptable for you? I don't either, but.
I think that we could put it back out to bid, and we could direct the city to properly do their due diligence, reach out to the whole list of contractors that we have, licensed contractors or whatever they are on the city's, registered with the city of TKK, asking them and making sure that they're aware of this opportunity so that they have the opportunity to bid. The sole bidder knew about the project before it was even placed on the city website.
But it was placed on the website.
It was placed on the website, but to be honest, how many people know about what's placed on the website?
We don't have that answer, though. That's
and we don't
an
have-
open-ended question.
And we don't have the answer
If
whether or
I'm in
not
business and
anyone else would
my job as
bid.
a commercial contractor, I'm soliciting any angle I can to find work, if that's the type of work that we're looking for. And so I just think we're spinning our wheels if we put it back out, because we're going to have the same result at this type of price point.
But we don't know that for sure.
It was there for 19 days once. And
And-
the city followed appropriate procedures on what, aside from receiving
The-
2 bids, was everything else in the current procurement ordinance, was all that followed?
Yes.
And-
So it's something that's completely out of our control on who does bid, but if we follow what we currently have in place, then we didn't do anything wrong.
So I will state that in the procurement policy, it states, where required by this division, competitive bidding must be encouraged by advertising and other publicity. Sure, we may have posted it on our City of TUK website, But did we really go to this extent? Other publicity? Did we post it on Facebook? Did we call some of our contractors? It's part of our policy. It says competitive bidding must be encouraged by advertising and other publicity. I'm just reading the policy. My interpretation is that we could do a better job. This is our opportunity to do this project justice, have an opportunity to prove whether, this might be the most competitive bid, but the thing is, we don't know. We don't know. We can guess, we can say that there's no other contractors, but we don't know for sure. So why not go through the process, do our due diligence, and make sure that there might be an opportunity that we could save the city of TKK $20,000 or $10,000
Is the city
or
required to take the
$5,000.
lowest bid?
No,
No, sir.
Okay, so we get a second bid that's $20,000 lower, but we know the quality caliber work that the current contractor that has a bid in does because he has a history with the city. Is that not taken into consideration anyway?
that would be taken into consideration.
So the $20,000 less than bid doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter because it gives us an option, right? Right now, we have no options.
Well, do you want to make a motion, or do you want to do anything, or what?
It's the body's decision.
I will mention that you probably do need to take some action, because if you don't take any action, the city manager has no direction, and I think you're at a standstill.
So I'll be willing to take a motion. I don't think you're going to get a second, otherwise we're ready to adjourn.
We gotta take a motion either way, Mr. Mayor. So we have to either vote in favor for or against.
Well, ready for a motion. I'll consider a motion.
Is that correct? Is that what you mean, Bob? We have to take
Well, what happens if nothing comes out of this meeting tonight? My advice for the city manager, as the city manager, is to do nothing. Because.
That's right.
Right. Because it has been brought to his attention that the ordinance requires it, and city council's not gonna take that up. So I guess you'll be revisiting, the fact that you, decided to take on this project. If he's not able to bid it out, I guess that'll come up in another meeting, but he's at a standstill now. I've told him that, from my opinion. So he needs some direction, or in lack of direction, I don't think anything's gonna happen. We're not obligated to accept any bid.
I think the question is, what are the options tonight? And I think the option is you can entertain a motion to
Accept
reject
the
the bid and put it back out, reject the proposal, direct me to put it back out for bid for 30 days and solicit other bids, as Ms. Dash was speaking to. Or you can make a motion to accept the bid and authorize me to move forward as the city manager. I mean, those are really your two choices. As far as actionable items this evening.
Well, okay, I say accept the bid. One is to accept the bid, one is to
I'll
go
make a
out and
motion
do
to
it.
accept the bid and move forward with the dollar amount of what, $56,900? Okay.
I second.
Motion.
I have a motion by Ryan Richard, second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Dang.
Motion passes. Next, I have a motion to adjourn,
Second.
second by Heather. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.